Crash landing. David's heart raced as the control panel of his spacecraft lit up with alarms. The meteor storm had come out of nowhere, its relentless barrage far worse than any simulation back on Earth. Control, do you read me? I've got multiple system failures here. David spoke into the microphone, his voice steady despite the chaos. Static crackled through the speakers, the voice of mission control faint and distorted. Attempting rear-out power. Hold on, David. But the ship was losing altitude fast, spiraling towards the surface of an unknown planet. With a few deft movements, David tried to stabilize the craft, hands flying over dials and switches. Looks like it's going to be a manual landing, folks, he muttered to himself. Hang on. With a jarring thud, the spacecraft touched down amidst a grove of towering, luminescent plants. The cabin lights flickered out as the ship powered down, plunging him into near darkness. Breathing heavily, David unbuckled his harness and grabbed his emergency pack. Climbing out of the wreckage, he was met by a breathtaking sight. The vegetation glowed softly in the twilight of the alien world, casting long shadows on the ground. David's gaze was caught by the movement of something, or someone, in the distance. "Hello," he called out, unsure. "Is someone there?" The figure paused, tilting its head, and then stepped forward into the light. It was not human. The being had a graceful, elongated form with skin that shimmered like starlight. David held up his hands in a gesture of peace. "My name is David. I come in peace," he said slowly, hoping his intentions were clear. The alien watched him curiously, but did not respond. It simply stared, its bright eyes reflecting a world David had never imagined. "I need to find shelter," David continued, pointing to the darkening sky. "Can you help me?" After a moment, the creature turned and gestured for him to follow. David hesitated, then took a step forward, following the alien through the glowing forest. As they walked, David tried to initiate conversation. "I'm from Earth. That's another planet." "Oh, I guess you probably figured that." The alien remained silent but slowed its pace slightly, as if to accommodate his presence. "Not much of a talker, huh? That's okay. I appreciate the help." "Really?" David added, looking around at the strange, beautiful world. The journey continued in silence until they reached a clearing where the light from the alien flora was brighter. The creature stopped and pointed to a structure in the distance, nestled between towering crystal formations. "That's where you live?" David asked, and for the first time the alien nodded. "Thank you," David said, nodding in gratitude. "I hope I can learn more about where I am, maybe help you too. Exchange knowledge." The alien tilted its head again, considering his words. Then, stepping closer, it touched his arm gently, its touch warm and surprisingly human. David smiled, feeling a flicker of hope. "Let's start at the beginning. My full name is David Miller." "And you?" The alien pointed to itself. "Mira," it said, its voice musical and soft. "Well, Mira," David grinned, relieved to make a connection. "It looks like we're going to be friends." Together, they walked towards the alien settlement, the first chapter of an unexpected story unfolding under the stars of an alien sky. Chapter 2, A Strange Encounter. As David followed Mira towards the settlement, the surreal beauty of the alien landscape continued to astound him. The structures they approached were unlike anything human architects had designed, their forms flowing organically from the crystalline ground like frozen waves of glass. "Your architecture is amazing," David remarked, his eyes wide as he took in the smooth curves and iridescent surfaces that seemed to absorb and refract the planet's soft light. Mira led him through an archway into what appeared to be the community's central area, where more of her kind moved about. They varied in height and color, but all possessed the same ethereal quality as Mira. "This is incredible," David whispered, trying not to stare too openly at the passing figures. Mira stopped in front of a taller alien, who had deep indigo skin and a stern expression. She spoke in her melodic language, the fluid sounds echoing slightly in the open space. "This is Halan, our leader," Mira introduced after a brief exchange. "Han, this is David from Earth." Helian's gaze was piercing as he studied David, his posture rigid and commanding. "You are welcome here, David," he said in halting English, clearly making an effort to communicate. "We seldom have visitors. What brings you to our world?" David nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Halan. I crashed here accidentally. A meteor storm damaged my ship beyond repair. I'm just trying to survive and understand more about where I am." Halan regarded him thoughtfully. Accidents can lead to unforeseen paths. You will find shelter here as long as you need. Mira will assist you. I appreciate your hospitality, David replied, feeling a sense of relief. I hope to learn from you and perhaps share knowledge from my world as well. Helen nodded slightly. Exchange can benefit us all. Come, let us show you where you will stay. As they walked, David glanced at Mira, who seemed pleased with her leader's decision. They passed through several more stunning structures, each one integrating seamlessly into the natural landscape. You must have a very advanced technology to create all this, David commented as they entered a building that looked out over a panoramic view of the alien city. It has taken many generations to achieve this harmony with our environment, Helen explained. Our technology grows from our need to preserve and enhance, not dominate. David listened intently, impressed by the philosophy so starkly different from human tendencies to conquer and exploit. This will be your place of rest, Mira said as they stopped before a dwelling that looked out onto a glowing forest. The interior was simple and elegant, with furnishings that seemed to be carved from the same luminous material as the buildings. Thank you, Mirathon, David said, feeling more at peace than he had since his crash. I look forward to learning more about your culture. You will start tomorrow. Rest now, Helen said, nodding once before departing with Mira. Left alone, David explored his new quarters, his thoughts drifting to the potential of this unexpected detour in his journey. As the alien sun set outside his window, casting long shadows and bathing the room in a soft, golden light, he felt a profound connection to this mysterious world. He wondered about the future, about what lessons he would learn, and what stories he would tell if he ever made it back home. For now, though, he was content to be a guest on this beautiful planet, a lone human among an alien civilization, bound together by circumstance and curiosity. Chapter 3: The Sanctuary. The next morning, David awoke to a soft, harmonious melody that seemed to emanate from the very walls of his room. He found Mira waiting outside, her expression bright and inviting. "Good morning, David. Did you rest well?" she asked, her voice as calming as the melody. "Yes, thank you. Your music, it's everywhere. Is it playing from somewhere?" David inquired, curious about the soothing sounds. Mira smiled. "It's not played, it's grown. Our buildings are living things, part of our ecosystem. They respond to the sun and wind, creating what you hear as music." Fascinated, David followed her as they walked towards what appeared to be a large communal building. "Your connection with nature, it's unlike anything we have on Earth. Everything here is integrated. Yes, it is the essence of our way of life. Come, today you will meet some of our scholars. We believe you can learn much from each other," Mira explained. They entered the building, which was filled with light and open spaces. Aliens of various colors and sizes moved about, some pausing to observe David with quiet curiosity. A tall, slate-colored alien approached them, extending a hand in a human-like gesture of greeting. "I am Soren, a scholar of our environmental systems. I am eager to learn about Earth's ecosystems." David shook his hand, pleased with the welcome. "It's great to meet you, Soren. I'm an astronaut, not a biologist, but I'll share what I know." Soren nodded, leading them to a circular table surrounded by screens displaying images of both Earth and the alien planet. "Mira tells us you have remarkable technology for space travel. We focus more on sustainability and ecological technology." As they sat, another figure joined them. This alien, smaller and with a pale green hue, introduced himself as Kale. "I specialize in energy conservation. I am curious about your energy sources." David engaged eagerly, explaining, "We use a mix of fossil fuels and renewables like solar and wind. I've seen your structures. They seem to be powered differently." "Yes," Kale nodded. "We harness energy from natural elements without depleting them. Our technology could be adaptable to your world's needs." The discussion deepened, with David learning about their advanced methods of energy use and environmental care, and sharing insights into human advancements and the challenges Earth faced. As the hours passed, David realized how much humans could learn from this civilization that thrived without harming its planet. He took notes, already thinking of how to convey these insights back to Earth. "I must say, your approach is revolutionary. We've struggled with balancing growth and sustainability," David admitted. Mira, who had been listening intently, spoke up. "Perhaps this is the beginning of a new understanding between our worlds. What one lacks, the other can provide." David nodded in agreement. "I'd like to document everything I learned here." Maybe if I get back, I can advocate for adopting some of your practices. That is a worthy goal, Soren said, his tone approving. Cooperation could be the key to solving many of your planet's crises. As the meeting ended, David felt invigorated by the exchange of ideas. He thanked his hosts and returned to his quarters, his mind buzzing with possibilities. That evening, as he watched the sunset casting brilliant hues across the alien landscape, he felt a surge of purpose. Here, far from his home planet, he was discovering a new way to make a difference. It was an opportunity he had never anticipated, one that he was now eager to embrace fully. Chapter 4: Learning to Communicate. The following day, David accompanied Mira to a workshop designed to facilitate deeper understanding and communication between different species. The workshop, led by an elderly alien named Vorin, was set in a serene park filled with flowing water and whispering trees. "Good morning, David," Vorin greeted him with a warm, resonant voice. "Today, we'll be using some of our communication tools to help bridge the gap between our languages." David was intrigued. "I'm looking forward to learning more. It's been a challenge to only speak through translation." Vorin smiled, his eyes twinkling with a hint of mischief. "Language is more than words. It's about context, emotion, and cultural layers. Let's begin." He handed David a small device, similar to a tablet but with a fluid, dynamic interface. This tool will analyze vocal patterns and suggest translations not only based on direct meaning but also emotional intent. David tested the device, speaking a simple greeting. The device lit up and produced a series of symbols that Mira read with a nod. "It says you are greeting warmly and without fear." "It's accurate," she explained. "That's incredible," David replied, his excitement growing. "It's like having a real-time interpreter that understands feelings, too." "Yes, and it helps us avoid misunderstandings that could occur with more straightforward translation devices," Vorin added. The session continued with various exercises, including one where David had to describe Earth without using direct language, relying instead on emotions and abstract concepts. Mira and others provided feedback, which the device interpreted, helping him see where his descriptions fell short or were misinterpreted. "This is a challenging exercise," David chuckled, wiping his brow. "Trying to explain the ocean's vastness or a storm's fury without specific words makes you think differently about your own experiences." Mira was quick to encourage him. "But you're doing well. We're beginning to feel the essence of your words, not just hear them." As the workshop progressed, others joined in, including a younger alien named Jiro, who was fascinated by human culture. "Can you explain human music?" he asked eagerly. David thought for a moment, then described the variety of music from classical to rock, using a device to help convey the emotional drive behind each genre. Jiro listened intently, his device glowing with symbols. "It sounds like music is a form of storytelling for you," he deduced, a notion that made David nod in agreement. "Yes, exactly. Each song, each piece of music tells a story or expresses something deep within us," David responded, pleased with the understanding. As the sun began to set, the workshop concluded with a group activity where everyone shared a personal story, using the devices to help bridge the language gap. David chose to tell a story about his first spacewalk, conveying the awe and isolation of being surrounded by the vastness of space. The aliens listened, captivated by the shared emotions of wonder and solitude. The devices glowed continuously, symbols dancing across screens as they translated not just words, but the shared human experience. "Thank you, Vorin, Mira, and everyone," David said as they wrapped up. "Today wasn't just about learning a language. It was about understanding each other on a deeper level." Vorin nodded sagely. "Understanding is the first step towards true communication." "You're welcome, David. We're all learners on this journey." David walked back to his quarters, feeling more connected to the alien community than ever. The workshop had opened a new dimension in his relationship with Mira and her people, one that went beyond mere survival to genuine exchange and mutual respect. Chapter 5: An Intimate Understanding. As the days turned into weeks, David's understanding of and integration into the alien culture deepened. His daily interactions were no longer just about survival or learning, but about forming genuine connections, especially with Mira, who became his closest confidant and guide. One evening, after a day filled with collaborative research, David and Mira found themselves walking along a bioluminescent path winding through one of the many tranquil parks that dotted her city. "The way your city integrates with nature, it's not just practical, it's beautiful," David remarked, looking around at the glowing flora that lit their way. Mira smiled, her face illuminated by the soft light. Our ancestors believed that living in harmony with our planet isn't just beneficial, it's necessary. It's about respect for our environment and for each other. David nodded, his thoughts drifting to Earth. I wish we had learned that lesson sooner on my planet. They reached a small clearing where the light from the plants cast ethereal shadows. Mira turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. David, your openness to learn about us, it's more than we usually encounter from visitors. David's heart fluttered slightly at the intensity of her gaze. Well, I've had an excellent teacher, he said, his voice softening. Mira reached out, touching his arm gently. The warmth of her hand seemed to spread through his entire body. I feel connected to you, David. More than just as a guide or a teacher. David looked into her eyes, seeing the sincere affection reflected there. He took a deep breath, closing the short distance between them, and tentatively placed his hand on her cheek. I feel the same, Mira. I didn't expect to find this kind of connection so far from home. The air around them seemed to pulse with a new energy as they moved closer. David leaned in, his lips meeting hers in a gentle kiss that spoke of mutual respect and burgeoning feelings. Mira responded with equal tenderness, her hands moving up to his shoulders as they deepened a kiss, exploring the new emotional landscape that unfolded between them. They parted slightly, breathless. This is new to me, this feeling, Mira whispered, her voice full of wonder. David smiled, his hand still caressing her cheek. For me, too. It's unexpected, but it feels right, like a part of me that I didn't know was missing. They sat down on a nearby bench, entwining their fingers, both contemplating the significance of their shared moment. The night deepened around them, filled with the sounds of the nocturnal creatures and the soft hum of the city. Where do we go from here? Mira asked after a long silence, her voice uncertain but hopeful. David squeezed her hand, his decision clear. I want to stay here with you, if that's what you want to. Myra's face lit up with a radiant smile. I would like that very much, David. To explore what this bond between us could become. They spent the rest of the evening talking about their hopes and dreams, not just for themselves, but for a potential bridge between their two worlds. As they shared a quiet embrace under the stars of an alien sky, David felt a profound sense of belonging and peace. A human's hope and an alien's love, bound together, he murmured, the phrase echoing the deep connection they now shared. Mira looked up at him, her eyes shining with emotion. Yes, bound together, she echoed, her voice full of promise. In that moment, David knew his life had changed forever, not just in where he was, but in who he was with. Together, they would face whatever came next, bound by a love as vast as the universe itself. Chapter 6, A Twist of Fate. The serenity of the newfound relationship between David and Mira was suddenly interrupted a few weeks later by the unexpected arrival of a human rescue mission. The sleek, metallic spacecraft touched down on the outskirts of the alien city, sending ripples of concern through the local population and bringing a complex mix of emotions to David's heart. David and Mira approached the landing site, hand in hand, their steps hesitant as they neared the ship. The hatch opened, and out stepped Commander Helen Ross, flanked by two engineers. David recognized Helen immediately, a friend and colleague from his astronaut training days. David, you're alive, Helen exclaimed, rushing forward to embrace him tightly. We thought we'd lost you for good after the storm. It took us weeks to pinpoint your signal. Helen, it's good to see you, David replied, his voice filled with mixed feelings. But I wasn't alone here. This is Mira. She and her people helped me survive. Helen extended her hand to Mira, who responded with a graceful nod. We are grateful for your care of our friend, Helen said, her tone respectful yet cautious. The group moved to the alien city's main hall, where Han and other leaders joined to discuss the situation. The room buzzed with a blend of human and alien dialects, the air thick with diplomacy and underlying tension. David, we've come to bring you back, Helen explained once everyone was seated. Your skills and experience are needed back home. Plus, your family and friends are eager to see you. David felt torn, his gaze shifting from Helen to Mira. Mira squeezed his hand under the table, her support unwavering. I found more than just survival here, David finally said, his voice steady. I found a deep connection with Mira and her people. There's so much we can learn from each other. Helen's eyebrows raised in surprise. Are you saying you want to stay? Yes, David affirmed. I want to continue the work I've started here. The collaboration between our worlds could benefit both our species. Han spoke next, his voice resonant in the chamber. We too see the value in this bond. David has shared much about Earth, and we believe there is much to gain from exchange of knowledge and culture. Helen looked around the room, her strategic mind assessing the potential of the situation. This could indeed be a historic opportunity for both our worlds. If David is willing to be our liaison here, it could open doors we've never even considered. The discussion continued, with technical teams from both sides joining to outline potential collaborative projects. The talks extended deep into the night, covering everything from environmental technologies to interstellar navigation. As the meeting drew to a close, Helen approached David privately. Are you sure about this, David? It's a big step. David nodded, his decision clear. I've never been more sure about anything. This is where I need to be. Helen clapped him on the shoulder, her demeanor softening. Then we'll support you in every way we can. I'll make sure of it. The next morning, as the human spacecraft prepared to leave, David stood beside Mira, watching the ship vanish into the bright morning sky. Turning to her, he felt a profound sense of purpose. Looks like I'm officially your planet's newest immigrant, he joked lightly, trying to ease the gravity of his commitment. Mira laughed, her joy genuine and contagious. And you are most welcome, David. Our future together is boundless. As they walked back to the city, their path illuminated by the rising sun and the glowing flora, David felt a deep peace settle within him. He was exactly where he belonged, with Mira at his side and a universe of possibilities waiting to be explored. Chapter 7: The Decision. The weeks following the departure of the human spacecraft were a time of profound adjustment and preparation for David. With his decision to stay now fully realized, he began to integrate more deeply into the alien society, a process both exhilarating and daunting. One morning, David and Mira met with Helion and a group of both human and alien experts via a sophisticated communication setup that allowed for interstellar dialogue. We need to establish a framework for ongoing communication and collaboration, David suggested, leading the session. It's crucial for both our worlds to benefit equally from this partnership. Han nodded in agreement. Your knowledge in space travel and our advancements in environmental technology could be the cornerstone of this new era. A human scientist, Dr. Aaron Lee, appeared on the screen, his image flickering slightly with the distance of space. I've been reviewing the data you sent, David. Your findings are extraordinary. There's a lot we can learn from each other. David smiled, grateful for the support. Thanks, Aaron. I believe our combined efforts could lead to solutions for some of the pressing issues on Earth, like energy consumption and ecological balance. The discussion shifted to practical matters, with Mira outlining how their technology could be adapted for human use. Our energy systems can be scaled to fit smaller planets, and with some modifications, they could improve efficiency dramatically. Dr. Lee was visibly impressed. That sounds promising. We'll need to set up a task force to handle the logistics and ensure compliance with interplanetary regulations. As the meeting progressed, David found himself deeply involved in planning stages, often turning to Mira for her insights. It was clear that their personal bond had grown into a professional partnership as well. After the conference, David and Mira took a walk through one of the quieter parts of the city, a beautiful garden that seemed to flourish under her gentle touch. Did you ever imagine this, Mira? Our worlds working together like this? David asked, his hand finding hers. Mira shook her head, her eyes reflecting the vibrant colors around them. No, I never did. But I'm glad it's happening, and that it's happening with you. David felt a rush of affection. Me too. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Their conversation drifted to more personal topics as they discussed plans for the future. There's much to do, but I want us to find time for us too, David said earnestly. Mira's smile was all the answer he needed. We will. We must balance our duties with our happiness. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the garden, David felt an overwhelming sense of contentment. He had found not only a new home but a new purpose and a new love. The challenges ahead were daunting, but with Mira by his side, he was ready to face them. Let's head back, Mira suggested. Tomorrow is another big day. We start early with the environmental integration team. David nodded, his spirit buoyed by the thought of their joint efforts. Let's do it. Together. Hand in hand, they walked back, their shadows merging into one in the fading light. This chapter of his life, David knew, was just beginning. And it was a chapter he intended to make the most of, filled with hope, challenge, and the promise of shared tomorrows. Chapter 8. Together as One. In the months that followed, David and Mira worked tirelessly to establish and enhance the collaboration between their worlds. Their efforts culminated in the inauguration of the Intercultural Exchange Center, a state-of-the-art facility designed to foster education and cooperation on environmental and technological advancements. On the day of the center's opening, David stood beside Mira and Helen, looking out over a crowd of both humans and aliens. Cameras flashed, capturing this historic moment. Today marks a new chapter in our shared history, David began, addressing the assembly. This center is not just a place of learning, but a symbol of what we can achieve together. Mira took over smoothly, her voice carrying through the crowd. Here, we will develop technologies that can heal worlds, share knowledge that can bridge cultures, and build friendships that will last across the stars. Hyan spoke next, his tone solemn yet hopeful. We have much to learn from each other. May this center be a place where our combined efforts create a brighter future for all our peoples. The applause was thunderous, echoing off the architecture of the center, which blended human and alien designs. After the speeches, David and Mira led a tour of the facility, showing off laboratories where human and alien scientists were already at work. As they walked through the high-tech corridors, David introduced the various team leaders to a group of visiting dignitaries. This is Dr. Lisa Chen. She's heading our joint research on sustainable energy systems. Dr. Chen, a lively woman with a sharp mind, shook hands with the dignitaries. We're excited about the potential applications of what we're developing here. Imagine a world where energy is not only sustainable, but enhances the environment. The tour continued to an expansive room filled with interactive displays. And this, Mira explained, is our cultural exchange zone. Here, visitors can learn about our histories, art, and philosophies through immersive experiences. One of the dignitaries, a curious man from Earth, was fascinated by a display depicting the alien planet's history. It's incredible, he remarked. Your history is so different, yet there are themes of struggle and triumph that are universal. Yes, Mira agreed, and by understanding our past, we can better navigate our future together. Later, as the day wound down, David and Mira found a quiet moment in a small garden on the center's roof. The city spread out below them, a testament to the civilization that had embraced him. Did you ever think it would lead to this? Mira asked, her hand in his. David shook his head in awe. Never. But I'm glad it did. What we're starting here could change everything. Mira leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. I'm proud of what we've achieved. Not just the center, but us. David kissed the top of her head, his heart full. Me too. It feels like everything in my life was leading me here, to this moment, too. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the garden. David thought about the crash that had brought him to this alien planet and the strange, wonderful path that led him to Mira. He realized that sometimes the most unexpected journeys were the ones that mattered most. As they stood together, watching the stars emerge in the twilight sky, David felt an overwhelming sense of unity and purpose. Here with Mira, on this beautiful alien world, he had found his place in the universe. Together, they would continue to work, to learn, and to build a bridge between their peoples. A human's hope and an alien's love, bound together, he murmured, the words a perfect summary of his journey. Mira smiled, squeezing his hand. Bound together, she echoed, her eyes shining with love and determination. Together, they turned back to the party, ready to face whatever challenges and joys the future might hold, united in their mission and in their hearts.